When you go to sleep, the spirit awakens. When you wake up, the spirit goes to sleep. This is something I made up recently through a thought in my mind, through hearing things about the imagination, about manifestation, about turning your reality into your dreams. Everyone always uses things like, my dreams came true. This was always my dream. I dreamed that one day I have a dream car, I have a dream house, I have a dream wedding. Why is it associated with when we sleep and what we dream about? I think what it has to do is with imagination and manifestation. If you've ever heard of the book Awaken the Imagination Within, or Awaken Imagination, it says a story about a blind woman, and it's a blind woman who imagines herself getting picked up to get driven. Because she's blind, she's obviously limited by reality where she can't go and drive herself, right? She doesn't have superhuman powers or some sort of, it doesn't tell you that imagination can break reality itself in that sense of she's gonna stop being blind and get driven. No, but she can imagine herself getting driven by someone. Not her actually driving the car, but she can imagine someone else driving her. She can bring it to reality in a different way. She can use her limitations. And it says how she could only imagine 5 seconds of it. Now, I don't know if this is based off of a true story or if it's just an example, but it really hit me because you can only imagine 5 seconds at the end. And that spoke to me not only because when you fail and when you succeed, one's a nightmare and the other one's a dream. Let me say that again. When you fail, it's a nightmare. When you succeed, it's a dream. And I think what that is about is a vision. If you have 5 seconds or less, it's sort of a glimpse into the future. And you don't have enough time to overthink, overanalyze, or get anxious and stress about how it's going to work. You just see it happening. And it becomes a belief. I think that's how you win in life. I think that's how you succeed in anything in life. And I think that's how you manifest your dreams. It's not by overanalyzing and overthinking your way there, but by just simply seeing it. Can it be that simple? I think so. And another reason why you can't spend too much time in this imagination realm, in this dream state of sort of daydreaming, is because that's what it will become, daydreaming, where you're lazy and in reality you're not doing anything to get you closer to your reality, but you're playing a fantasy in your head. You're imagining that what's going to happen is going to happen, but you're there for too long, to the point where it starts to disassociate with your reality. Your fantasy grows and your reality stays the same. When you go and get a glimpse, 5 seconds, you just envision the end, not the beginning, not the middle, but the end of the result of the dream you're trying to manifest, right? When you imagine that, the rest, right, those years or months or days or whatever it is, maybe there's no time gap, but the imagination and the reality, what happens in between sort of shrinks, and it gets closer and closer and closer till one day, whether that's hours from now or years from now, the imagination meets reality. And I don't think this happens if you overstress and overthink and overanalyze. Of course, the work is important, and there are things that you need to do in order to succeed and it's all about action. But visualization is how you control your beliefs. It's how you control your mindset. It's how you control why you get to work. And if you can't visualize yourself for 5 seconds, I don't know how you expect it to come to your reality. I think it's in everyone's head. And maybe some people aren't imaginative. Maybe they're not creative. Maybe they don't believe in this. They're like, oh, manifestation is bullshit. Well, maybe you're right. But you still do it. You still visualize. You still get images in your head of what you imagine things to be like in the future. You know, for you, it's you driving your dream car. And you just imagine what that feels like. Oh, can't imagine what that feels like. What's the difference? It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. We do it every day, we don't even realize it. We do it every moment, we don't even realize it. So, how do you control this? Well, not taking too long, as we explained, but also, this can happen negatively. I mentioned dreams and I mentioned nightmares earlier. How many of us have tried to quit something, have tried to stop an addiction of some sort? It can be anything, from as little as, I don't know, a sugary food to hardcore drugs, right? Funny, but not funny. I think when we're trying to stop this addiction, what happens to a lot of us is we imagine ourselves doing it. And then we try to fight that. And we try to fight that by overthinking and overanalyzing. At least in my case, that's what I do. Where I imagine the addiction, the action of the addiction. Let's say it's eating a sugary food. And I imagine myself eating it, and then I fight against it. I go, no, I'm not going to do that. That's this, that's that. This is the reason why, and this is this. What that does is it creates imbalance, and it creates this resistance. And what's going to happen, it's like a rubber band. And you just stretch it and stretch it and stretch it until one day it snaps. And I think the real way to attack this is just by visualizing some sort of action or some sort of result that is positive that you're going to get from not doing the thing. So don't even think about the thing. Think about what you're going to do instead. Replace the habit instead of destroying it, right? Because you have to visualize something. If you're going to visualize quitting, you're going to be actually thinking about the thing itself. And then what ends up happening? Either you resist temptation for as long as you can, and then one day the rubber band snaps and you go back to normal. And if anything, you don't go back to the addiction, you go back to the addiction, but 10 times worse, because you've had this emptiness, this fiending for something that you're deprived of. You deprive yourself of it. So how do you go against that? How do you not do that? How do you not fall into the same trap? Well, I think you imagine yourself doing something instead. You imagine how this thing, not the action itself, but how it gets into the way of something bigger. And that bigger thing is what you have to think about. That more important thing, right? Prioritize the thing that matters more to you. That's what you have to think about. That's what you have to imagine. That's what you have to visualize in your mind. Because if you try to quit something, you're focusing on it. And if you focus on something, you attract it. If you chase something, it's running away from you. But if you think about something, if you imagine, if you visualize, it comes towards you. So why would you give that power to your addiction? Don't give that power to your addiction. Give that power to something stronger, something more important, something you actually care about, and something that the addiction is getting in the way of. That's usually your why, right? So for someone, it could be a friend of theirs. A friend of theirs is, they're starting to lose a relationship with them because of this addiction, let's say. And they have to think, I'm gonna make so many good memories with my friend. And you just imagine yourself with your friend again, enjoying yourselves because you're no longer bound to this addiction, whatever it is, right? That's what you have to focus on. Not the addiction. Why would you focus on the addiction? Why would you focus on the thing you're trying to quit, right? The thing you're trying to stop, and you're focusing on that, you're imagining that. That's exactly what you're going to manifest back into your life. So what you need to do is you need to wake up from reality by going into your dreams, by not fantasizing and playing a sort of delusional reality in your head, but having a glimpse, a little picture in your mind that plays for maybe 5 seconds, not much more, of your future, of your dream, of what that really is. You have to see it. And I think once you do that, you can manifest just about anything. But the power is that we all have this. Some of us are more trained than others. Some of us are more aware than others. And some of us can manifest more things. But that all comes down to the individual and their belief, their I am, their identity. So, this can go good, nightmares, or this can go bad, dreams. The choice is yours. What do you think about? What do you visualize? What do you imagine? What do you dream about?